Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Squat Cobbler. I am Dr. Mike, Ed Official Pagan on everything, and joining me as always.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And we would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel, hit the notifications, give us a thumbs up or two on the videos, leave us a comment, tell your friends and neighbors, share it on social media, take a peek at our merchandise, which make fine, fine gifts during this holiday season.
Very nice, sir. Very nice. So, we're getting back a little bit to a topic that we both love and we haven't really covered in a little while, and that is drones. So, for anybody who's maybe a newer follower of us, explain your affinity for drones, sir.
Uh, and Jones too. Anyone named Jones, I
Jones,
like. They're
we
good
love
people. Jones are good, good people. But the drone was invented by someone named Jones. I didn't know if you knew that.
that's a fact. We
That's a
said it
fact.
here,
Yeah,
so it's a
look it up.
fact.
So, give us a second to update Wikipedia and
Yeah.
then look it up. I've been a big fan for some time. I have I don't know if we'll call it necessarily a fleet of drones, but I do have a wide variety. I've got a really nice TIE fighter drone. I've got a kind of one of the OG parent drones that the 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 camera's just on a fixed axis facing forward, but it's still a really nice AR drone there. I got a DJI as well, and looking to upgrade. Maybe going to go into the Mavic world. Then I got a couple little small ones as well, and so I've always kind of found them pretty cool to use and fun to kind of do some things and really kind of open some doors to whether it's creating actual video material to use or those types of things. I've just been fascinated by it, and then also fascinated by the ongoing good applications and growing concerns about the potential not so good uses of them. Like a fairly recent story out there of, yeah, we found these couple set of drones with a big long piece of copper wire between the two of them that they were flying towards some transformers. And fortunately, it didn't work out for whoever was flying the drones. But the ability to start to have some of these things cause problems um, is going to be interesting as well. Been a big fan for a while. How about you?
Definitely something I was very early on fascinated with, particularly with the camera applications of it and the perspective ability to kind of get shots and angles of things that you just couldn't do realistically outside of giant crane setups and things like that, and even then beyond that. Some of the things that people have done, particularly like flying out over the ocean and things like that, people who are much better drone pilots than I am, doing some really cool camera work and stuff like that with them. I have a couple of drones, nothing as impressive as Kelly's feet, Kelly's fleet.
I have some nice feet too.
He has, I'm sure he has good feet.
Awesome feet.
His fleet that he has. So I just want to make sure that I say that just in case anybody from the government's listening. I'm definitely not the one you need to worry about. It's Kelly um, and his drone fleet. But yeah, it's something that's really fascinating to me. And you and I have talked about it over time. And there's been a lot of weird stuff as far as I don't know if it's not unfounded, I guess. Like you said, there are things to, I guess, be concerned about here and there. And there has been a push from various lawmakers over the years to kind of rein in the accessibility of drones, I would say. But came across a video recently that I think shows why they're important and why we need access to things like this. And it was somebody using drones to fly into Chernobyl, which, if anybody doesn't know, was an Oren Peli film, found footage horror film. And they were just, as a fan, scouring the sets of that. So what is your knowledge or thoughts on Chernobyl as a
Yeah, well, so
thing that plays?
I'm not for it.
Yeah,
So I'm not pro Chernobyl.
you're
Uh,
not you're not pro nuclear reactor meltdowns?
No, I'm
Okay.
not. I did watch. There was a great series. And I think was it HBO or Amazon? I think it may have been HBO. Uh, Captions will address it for us.
I
There was
believe it
a
was HBO.
there was a great kind of mini series on that where and I thought they did a pretty accurate, best I can tell, pretty accurate telling of it, and the things that we didn't know were going on, and what was happening to a lot of those poor folks in that area that were being pressed into service to address this horrific mess that was now had the potential to kill off a big chunk of the planet if they didn't get their act together on there. So um, I find it fascinating because it's got all those things in there about a government that's unwilling to kind of share kind of what's going on something that's like you probably should be telling people about this a lot more right now because and you should probably be accepting any help you can get because this is not something and just the ongoing concern of with nuclear reactors that if you do happen to make a mistake um, it's not something that goes away anytime soon and so I it anytime you can kind of then and now as you start to see there's some footage that folks will show as you kind of go through what used to be a thriving city. This is what they look like when they get abandoned and everybody leaves, and that's always been the abandoned places kind of thing's always been intriguing to me. And then of course what you shared kind of takes that to 11 when you're able to kind of really take it in a unique way. So are you pro nuclear disaster, Mike?
So I'm actually so the Chernobyl thing always kind of fascinated me since I was a kid until now. So I am, and this is something I was talking about. I don't know if you know this, Kelly, but I do a show called The Horror Connection with our friend Tony Viejo.
I do. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Never gonna listen to
it. We recently recorded an episode where we kind of talked about conspiracy theories. What they are now compared to what we knew as conspiracy theories as a kid and everything. And I was always, and still am, and I talked about it there, like fascinated with Russia because, coming up at the end of the Cold War with Russia just being a blanket villain for everything in America, like the weather is bad today. Russia probably had something to do with, that kind of a mentality on it. And then God bless him, Putin is basically a living Bond villain and not like a current, like grittier Bond movie, like the scenery chewing Bond villains of yesteryear.
Goldfinger level.
Yeah, like full on just crazy Bond villain. And I know he's a bad guy, so I'm not trying to make light of it, but it is entertaining. Like watch videos where they try and take him to task for different things and his responses are they have to be scripted. Like he has to be self-aware that he's doing this on purpose. And like one of my favorite things that I came across recently, because I don't follow sports, as anybody who's watched anything I'm involved in knows, I know nothing of sports. I came across this crazy video of Russian athletes accepting gold medals, air quotes. And then there was this big backlash against that. So turns out, I did not know this, Russia is no longer allowed to participate in the Olympics.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah. But what happened, so in retaliation for this, Putin is staging their own Olympic ceremonies, like their medal ceremonies and press conferences when they're not actually participating. The reason that this was getting so much coverage here, though, is there were Russian athletes who participated in the last Olympics as part of a special delegacy. And I guess there's people who think that's unfair because Russia is not allowed to participate, so they shouldn't be allowed to participate. This led me down this rabbit hole again. Love Russian stuff. Led me down this whole weird rabbit hole when Russia was formally banned from participating. was because of another doping scandal of theirs. The doctors who were specifically found to be involved and publicly named for being involved in this, when they were sent back to Russia, one of them went on the run right away and didn't return to Russia. He defected. The ones who did return to Russia all died in separate car accidents within like a day of returning to Russia. And there was an interview clip, and I wish I had like kept it, because I would just show this to everybody when I start talking about Putin. Like, this is why I'm interested in him, like why he fascinates me. There was some interview, and it's like international press, and somebody brings it up, and he doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't like look weird or anything. And they're like, how do you explain this? And he's like, traffic in Russia. Like, that was,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Like, he's an international reporter at a press conference just flat out accused him of murder, and he was just like, traffic in Russia.
Which is exactly what a 1960s James Bond villain would say, posed with the same question.
Exactly. So the Chernobyl thing is really just fascinating to me, because of, the sort of real life horror that you want to learn about, so that you can kind of see how something like that could possibly happen. And then, of course, the shroud of the Soviet Union over it, and Russia, and our kind of weird, estranged relationship with them and everything. So this is something that's really fascinating to me. So when you throw in somebody flying drones through there so they can look into the actual reactors and things like that, that's incredibly interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know what position, and maybe I'm just jealous because I don't have the confidence to do this. But and obviously the guy that's shooting the footage is a serious drone pilot and a lot of skills. But this need to say, hey, there's an arch, I'm going to go through it. Hey, there's a big Ferris wheel, I'm going to fly right between the bars and do that. I'm like, that's how I crash. That's how,
I noticed that too. Like, I was like, I feel like he's taking unnecessary risks with this drone just to get cool shots.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have gone over that Ferris wheel. You could have come up close to it, maybe then risen up. It would have been a great shot, would have looked good. But let's just go through. We go, and it's like, there's this bell tower. I'll just sneak through it a little bit. It's like, wow. But yeah, it's amazing stuff, footage, and to kind of see what's going on. And there's obviously some places, the big problem area has got the big shell over the top of it, and you can't get in there. But they're able to get around to some of the other circumstances, other buildings around there. It very interesting. I did want to explore a little bit further about this horror connection thing you mentioned, because that's a podcast about horror movies, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and so you and Tony Viejo, the other co-host, on the horror connection about horror movies, did a show talking about conspiracy theories.
Correct.
So it's a shame that you don't have another show that covers topics like, I don't know, drones, conspiracy theory. If only, Mike, I can understand. I feel sorry for you that you had no other outlet than this horror connection thing that's supposed to be about horror movies to do it. So that's good. I'm glad you shared. It tells me a little bit more, Mr. Putin.
Well, no, we didn't talk about drones. We didn't talk about this, but just my general fascination with Russia. And they're kind of, I feel like they've been set up to be sort of historically like the villain, and now they have a leader who's like, yes, that's what we want to be. He's just rolling as hard into that possibly can.
Yeah, but you should have answered that whole thing, which is traffic in Philadelphia.
Traffic in Philadelphia. What are you gonna do?
No, we will definitely be including a link to this footage. It's amazing. Guy's incredibly talented, and this is good drone stuff. This is the stuff.
And again, like he said, he was asked, to kind of to go around the more exposed parts of where the core would have been prior to the explosions and things like that, to see if there was, any radioactive elements that were still there and exposed and things like that. You would think they would have gotten to that sooner, but that was a little while ago. This is a weird afterthought to have like, this isn't like, did we close the garage door?
Yeah. Well, and I think, because if I remember kind of how the video went, it was he was wanting to kind of go just shoot some footage because he said, this is, I think this would be very interesting.
Yeah.
And as he got there and got set up, they're like, hey, could you help us out? We got to figure some stuff out here and test some stuff. Could you help us out on this? It was like,
I don't know if you know, but this did go well, and now we're starting to think like, should we tie up all those loose ends?
Yeah, we leave a stove on somewhere. We need to really kind of dig in a little further. And absent this guy coming over wanting to shoot the footage, I don't know when they're going to get around to it, but they're like, oh, well, you're here. You got a drone. Seems like a good thing. Let's try that. What do you think?
Now, I think my last question for you, particularly on this topic, so you've traveled quite a bit, and
Yes.
while I don't consider myself the most traveled person in the world, I've seen some stuff. If you had an opportunity to go somewhere, let's just say safely, to go and see something like Chernobyl from a safe distance, but just to kind of be in that area and see some of that in person, would you do something like that? That sort of disaster, be that close to a disaster like that?
I mean, I think if I was assured, if it was like, yeah, you're going to die, enjoy the view, because
you're definitely going to die, but
definitely going to die now. So let's just say I have assurance to say, no, and I'm not even going to go with you'll probably not die. I'm going to want something a little firmer than that. But because starts with just that kind of abandoned places fascination I have, I just always find that stuff really, really cool and interesting to see. And then this is the Disney World of abandoned places.
There's literally a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, there's a Ferris wheel. We flew through it. It was amazing. I would. I mean, it would take a lot to get me over the first part, which is I need to kind of know that I'm not going to start clicking when I get home or something like that, and do that. But I would, and I would accept. I'm very interested in it. I would accept some small amount of risk, but I'm not gonna be foolish about it. How about you?
Same. It would be at the top of my list of kind of places that I would like to see in person. So living in Pennsylvania, I'm near a famous disaster site with Centralia. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No,
it's a town that legally no longer exists. It's a city that no longer exists. Pennsylvania has removed it from all of the maps. A couple years ago, we took away the zip code. So you can no longer send mail to there. It doesn't exist on any map. You can't, they're just sealing it off slowly. So decades ago, Centralia was a major city. It was a big mining city, and they had an underground fire in one of the mines, and the fire set fire to the entire underground mining system, and they've never been able to put it out. So the town has been on fire for like 70 years, 80 years, something like that. So yeah, it's a famous thing. There's been video games and movies and stuff based off it. It's the basis for Silent Hill, the video game. They based that off of Centralia. So that's probably the most famous thing that came out of it, is the Silent Hill game series. So that's here in Pennsylvania. So officially it doesn't exist. It's not on any maps. You can't Google it. You can Google Centralia existed. But more recently, like I said, we took away all government access to it. There's no zip code anymore. You can't mail anything there. You can't, because they can't technically make anybody leave the city. So there were still a couple of stragglers who lived in a perpetually burning city. So, which is probably not the greatest choice. But it gets like a certain amount of like disaster tourism, I guess, of people who go there. And technically you're not allowed in, like there's signs when you pass by it, but signs don't stop anybody from going in somewhere. So if you look it up, you'll see lots and lots of Instagram pictures and things like that. And there's a very famous like main highway through Centralia that people take pictures on all the time.
And if our listeners will give me a few minutes to get to Wikipedia after the show, you'll also find out it's the birthplace of Hansen. So give me a little time.
The perpetually burning city of Centralia is where Hansen was born, inside the mine fires.
I'm going to start photoshopping the "Welcome to Centralia, home of Hansen."
Home of Hansen.
Birthplace of Hansen.
Birthplace of Hansen. So yeah, I mean, other than living near Centralia, like that's high on my list of things. Like I would love to see something like Chernobyl, but again, I understand there's a certain, whenever you do something like that, even if you go to Centralia, there is a certain element of danger. You're not going to fall into a pit of fire. The fire is underneath the city, and it's been 80, 90 years or whatever it is. It's not going to collapse tomorrow. But you are technically around coal mine fumes and fire. You're inhaling smoke just being in Centralia. So I hear that's bad.
Yeah. It's frowned upon.
Yeah. So you're inhaling coal fumes and smoke just walking through, even if you don't like go too deep into the city, just being on that main stretch of road. There's actually cracks in the road, and depending on the time of the year that you're there, you can see smoke from the fire coming up through the street.
Yeah.
So
yeah, smoke in Centralia.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? So I do understand that if you're going to make a trip like that to see an abandoned place like that, you're taking a certain level of risk. There's only so much risk I'm willing to take with a nuclear reactor. Yeah. So, yeah. But I would love to. If there's some relatively safe way where I'm not going to get cancer the next week because I was there, then yes, I would take that opportunity.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So be interested in hearing from the listeners how many of you would be willing to give that a tour and see.
Snark stock.
That could be. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's probably there's probably, are there hotels there? No, it would be. I don't know. That'd be an interesting tour. But so anything else, sir?
No, I think that about covers it.
Cool. All right, well, folks, thanks for hanging with us on this interesting thing. You'll be able to hear a better version of this on the Horror Connection. We'll include a link to that as well, because apparently that's where all the good conversations happen these days. And thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.